I'm in here because I agreed to transport 2 kilograms of fentanyl across state lines for $5,000. I knew what it was. I knew what it would do to people. I did it anyway because I was broke and scared and told myself it was just one time. 3 people died from what I carried. I never met them. I never will. My name doesn't matter anymore. Call me E. I'm 25 years old and I've been inside for 58 days now. 8 years is my sentence. That's 2,920 days if I survive them all. Before I tell you what happened to me in here, before I explain how a stolen bag of coffee turned into 15 days in solitary confinement, you need to understand something. I didn't come to prison as a victim. I came as the person responsible for ending 3 lives. And somehow, that fact made me believe I deserved whatever came next. I was wrong about that too. The drive was supposed to be simple. 6 hours there, 6 hours back. Don't open the bag. Don't ask questions. $5,000 cash. I was working 2 jobs at the time, one at a warehouse, one stocking shelves overnight at a grocery store. I was sleeping 4 hours a night, eating 1 meal a day, and still couldn't make rent. My car had died 2 months earlier. I'd taken an Uber to the emergency room for what turned out to be a kidney stone, and that visit alone put me $3,000 in debt. I didn't have insurance. I didn't have savings. I didn't have anyone to call. Then Marcus reached out. We went to high school together but hadn't spoken in years. He knew I was struggling. Everyone in our town did. Small places are like that. Your business is everyone's business. He messaged me on Facebook. Said he heard I was having a tough time, said he might have work for me if I was interested. I knew what kind of work Marcus did. Everyone knew. But when you're that desperate, you start making deals with yourself. You start believing things that aren't true. I told myself it was probably just weed. I told myself one time wouldn't hurt anyone. I told myself I didn't have a choice. All of those things were lies. The bag was in my trunk when I picked up the car he'd lent me. I didn't look inside. I drove north through 2 states, hands tight on the wheel, checking my mirrors every 30 seconds. I delivered it to an apartment complex outside Pittsburgh. A guy in a Steelers jersey met me in the parking lot, took the bag, handed me an envelope. I counted the money in a gas station bathroom 10 minutes later. $50 $100 bills, more cash than I'd ever held in my life. I paid my rent. I paid the hospital bill. I bought groceries. For 2 weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. Then the DEA kicked in my door at 6 in the morning. They knew everything, the car, the route, the delivery. They had surveillance footage from 3 different gas stations. They had my fingerprints on the bag. Marcus had been under investigation for 8 months, and I'd walked right into the middle of it, but that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came during the trial, when the prosecutor stood up and explained what had happened to the drugs I'd delivered, how they'd been cut and distributed, how 3 people had died within a week. Michael, 19 years old, found in his dorm room by his roommate. Jennifer, 32, a mother of 2, died in her car outside her daughter's daycare. Carlos, 47, collapsed at work and never woke up. The prosecutor showed their photos. She said their names slowly, one at a time, looking directly at me. She said I might not have put the needle in their arms, but I'd put the poison in their city. She said every person in the chain was responsible. Every single one. My lawyer argued I was just a courier, that I didn't know anyone would die, that I deserved a lighter sentence. The judge didn't agree. 8 years, federal prison, no parole. Jennifer's mother stood up during sentencing. She was shaking. She said I didn't deserve to breathe free air while her daughter was in the ground. She said she hoped I suffered every single day. I didn't say anything. What could I say? She was right. When you first get to prison, they strip you down. Not just your clothes, everything. Your name becomes a number. Your belongings fit in a clear plastic bag. Your identity disappears. They processed 30 of us that day. We stood in line in identical orange jumpsuits, waiting for cell assignments. A guard walked down the line, barely looking at us, reading off numbers and block designations. When he got to me, he paused. "First time?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I said. He almost smiled. "Stay quiet. Stay out of the way. You'll be fine. I believed him. The cell block was louder than I expected, metal doors slamming, men yelling across tiers, a constant echo that never stopped, even at night. They assigned me to a 4-man cell on the second tier. When I walked in, 3 men were already there. Ricky was on the bottom bunk near the door, mid-50s, gray hair, reading a worn paperback. He glanced up when I entered, nodded once, and went back to his book. Later, I learned he was in for wire fraud, embezzled from his company for 10 years before they caught him. He didn't talk much, kept to himself. I respected that. Thomas was on the top bunk across from where I'd sleep. 23, skinny, always moving, bouncing his leg, cracking his knuckles. He was in for possession with intent to distribute. Second offense. He'd get out in 3 years if he kept clean. He told me all of this within 5 minutes of meeting him. I got the sense he was terrified and trying to hide it. Then there was Bone. He was sitting on the bottom bunk, directly below where I'd sleep, arms crossed, watching me. Not huge, but solid. Tattooed arms. Flat eyes that didn't blink much. He didn't introduce himself. He just stared at me for a long moment, then spoke. Top bunk, don't touch my shit. Don't use the toilet between midnight and 6 unless it's an emergency. We clear? Yeah, I said, we're clear. Good. In here, you own what I let you own. Remember that. That was it. That was my introduction to the man who would almost get me killed. The first 2 weeks were the strangest of my life. I've never felt so aware of my own existence and so invisible at the same time. Every moment required a decision. Where to sit in the cafeteria, where to stand in the yard, how to walk, how to look at people, how to not look at people. I learned quickly that prison has rules nobody tells you. You learn by watching, by making mistakes, by noticing what gets other people hurt. Don't sit at a table uninvited. Don't ask personal questions. Don't stare. Don't smile. Don't make eye contact too long. Don't show weakness. Don't show strength. Exist in this impossible space between visible and invisible, and maybe you'll be left alone. I tried, I really did. I ate quickly, alone, at the same table near the back corner. I walked the yard with my hands in my pockets, circling the perimeter, never stopping. At night, I lay on my bunk and stared at the concrete ceiling 6 inches from my face, listening to the sounds of 200 men locked in boxes, coughing and snoring and sometimes crying. I thought about Michael and Jennifer and Carlos constantly. I'd memorized their faces from the trial. I thought about their families. I thought about my own family, who'd stopped visiting after the sentencing. My mother had sat through the trial every day, crying silently in the back row. But when the judge read the sentence, she stood up and walked out. She hasn't answered my calls since. I thought about my ex-girlfriend, Sarah, who'd left 6 months before my arrest. She'd told me I was drowning and she couldn't save me. She was right. I was drowning. But instead of learning to swim, I'd grabbed onto Marcus's offer like a lifeline, and it had pulled me straight to the bottom. I spent a lot of time thinking about the moment I said yes to that drive, wondering if there was a version of me that said no, wondering if that version was sleeping in his own bed right now, working a normal job, living a normal life. But that version didn't exist. This was the only version, the one lying on a metal bunk in a concrete box, counting days until a number got small enough to mean something. It was week 3 when I made my first commissary order. The prison let you purchase items once a week using money deposited into your account. Most guys had family sending money regularly. I had $47 my lawyer had left in my account after the trial. That was it. That was everything. I ordered carefully. A notebook, $2. A pen, $1.50. Instant coffee, $3. Soap, $2.50. I wanted the notebook more than anything. I needed to write things down, not for anyone else, just to keep my thoughts from circling the same drain forever. The order came in on a Thursday afternoon. They called my name over the intercom, and I picked up a small plastic bag from the commissary window. I brought it back to the cell and put everything in the bin under my bunk. Ricky was reading. Tomas was pacing. Bone was in the day room. That night, just before lights out, I reached under my bunk to get the coffee. I'd been looking forward to it all day. Something warm, something that tasted like the world outside. The bag was open. Half the coffee was gone. I sat there on the floor, staring at the bag. My hands started shaking, not from anger, from something else. Fear, maybe, or the realization that nothing here was mine, not even the things I'd paid for. I looked at Bone. He was on his bunk below mine, arms crossed, watching me. "You got a problem?" he asked. I should have said no. I should have closed the bag, put it away, let it go. But something in me, something exhausted and angry and stupid, made me speak. "That was mine," I said quietly. Bone smiled, not a friendly smile. "Yeah? You see your name on it?" "I know it was in my bin." "Then you should keep better track of your shit." My heart was pounding. I could feel Ricky and Thomas pretending not to watch. I stood there holding the bag, knowing I'd already lost, but not knowing how to back down without looking weak. Bone stood up slowly. He wasn't huge, maybe 5'10", 170 pounds, but he moved like someone who'd been in a lot of fights, someone who knew how to hurt people. "You calling me a thief?" he asked. "No, I'm just saying." "You're just saying what?" I went quiet. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell cigarette smoke on his clothes. "You're new," he said, "so I'm going to give you some advice. In here, you don't own anything. You got what people let you have. You understand?" "Yeah," I said. "Then get on your bunk and shut the fuck up." I climbed onto my bunk. My face was burning. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to Bone settle back onto his bunk below me. He didn't say anything else. He didn't need to. I'd just learned my first real lesson about prison. It doesn't matter what's yours. It doesn't matter what's fair. All that matters is power, and I had none. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next day in the cafeteria, I saw Bone sitting with a group of men I didn't recognize. I took my tray to my usual table, started eating. Then someone sat across from me. It was one of Bone's friends. Shaved head, scar through his left eyebrow. "You're E, right?" he said. I nodded. "Bone says you got a mouth, that you don't know your place yet." He reached across the table and took my tray, just slid it toward him and walked back to Bone's table. They all laughed. I sat there staring at the empty space. I wasn't hungry anymore. I just wanted to disappear. That night, Bone was waiting when I came back from dinner. "You gonna cry about your tray too?" he asked. "No," I said. "Good, because if you snitch, if you run to the guards, you're done, not just with me, with everyone. You'll be marked." "I'm not saying anything." "You better not." I climbed onto my bunk without another word. 3 days passed, 3 days of walking on eggshells, of avoiding eye contact, of eating quickly and disappearing. I started to think maybe it was over. Maybe Bone had made his point and would leave me alone. I should have known better. It was late afternoon. Ricky and Bone were in the day room. Thomas was asleep on his bunk. I was sitting on the floor, writing in my notebook. Just thoughts, fragments of memories, things I was trying not to forget about the world outside. I heard footsteps. Bone appeared in the doorway. He looked at me, then at the notebook. "What's that?" he asked. "Nothing," I said. "Just writing." "Let me see it." "It's personal." He stepped into the cell. I said, "Let me see it." I held the notebook against my chest. "It's just thoughts. It's not about anyone." "Then you won't mind if I read it." He reached for it. I pulled back, and that's when everything went wrong. Bone grabbed the notebook, yanked it hard. I held on. He shoved me. I stumbled backward into the bunk frame, hit my shoulder hard enough to send pain shooting down my arm. And instinct, stupid animal instinct, made me shove him back. It wasn't hard. It wasn't even aggressive. but it was enough. Bone's expression changed. Something cold slid behind his eyes. He swung. His fist caught me on the side of the head. The room tilted. I went down. He was on me immediately, punching, kicking. I tried to cover my face, tried to curl up, tried to do anything but die. Thomas woke up screaming. Someone in another cell started banging on the bars. I could hear yelling. Footsteps. Then Ricky was there pulling Bone off, but Bone swung at him too, caught him in the chest. Ricky stumbled back. The cell was chaos, bodies, noise, blood in my mouth. I wasn't fighting. I was just trying to survive. The guards came eventually, not running, walking. They pulled Bone off, cuffed him, then cuffed me. My nose was bleeding. My ribs felt cracked. Everything hurt. Bone was yelling, "He started it! He came at me! You saw it!" I tried to speak. "I didn't—" "Shut up," one of the guards said. They dragged us out, took us to different holding cells. I sat there on a metal bench, blood dripping onto the floor, for 2 hours before anyone asked me what happened. When they did, I told the truth. I said Bone took my notebook. I tried to keep it. He hit me first. The guard looked at me like I was wasting his time. "Bone says you attacked him," he said. "That's not true. You got witnesses?" I thought about Thomas, who saw everything, about Ricky, who tried to help. "Yeah," I said. 2. The guard left, came back 20 minutes later. "Your witnesses won't talk," he said. "Says they didn't see anything." "That's not. It's your word against his, and you're the new guy. He's been here 4 years. You do the math." "So what happens now?" The guard looked at me for a long moment. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You're going to SEG, 15 days, protective custody." "Protective custody?" He attacked me. "That's not what it looks like from where I'm standing. You're new. You don't know how things work. We're protecting you from yourself." "This isn't fair." "Fair." He almost laughed. "You think this place is fair?" They took me to solitary that night. That was day 28 in general population. The next 15 days I spent alone. The cell is 6 feet by 8 feet. Concrete walls, concrete floor. A metal slab for a bed with a thin mattress that smells like disinfectant and sweat. A toilet with no seat. A sink that only runs cold water. A slot in the door for food trays. No windows, no clock, no sound except my own breathing and the hum of fluorescent lights that never turn off. That hum gets inside your head. A constant electrical whine that you can't block out, can't escape. After a while, you stop hearing it consciously, but it's still there, vibrating behind your thoughts like tinnitus. The first day, I thought I could handle it. I told myself it was like camping, like being alone with my thoughts. Time to think. Time to process everything. By the end of the first day, I was already losing track of time. They brought food 3 times, breakfast, lunch, dinner, but without a clock, without sunlight, the meals just became markers, arbitrary points in an endless stretch of fluorescent nothing. I tried to stay active, push-ups, sit-ups, walking in circles around the tiny cell, but there's only so much you can do in 6 feet by 8 feet. Eventually, you just sit and think and think and think. By the 3rd day, I was talking to myself, not intentionally, just little comments, observations. That's the food slot. My shoulder still hurts. I wonder what time it is. By the 5th day, the talking had turned into conversations, with myself, with people who weren't there, with Michael and Jennifer and Carlos. I imagined what they'd say if they could see me now, if they'd think this was justice, if they'd think I deserved worse. I imagined their families. I imagined my own family. I imagined everyone I'd ever known watching me sit in this box, and I couldn't tell if they were satisfied or disgusted or indifferent. By the 7th day, I'd forgotten what day it was. Time doesn't exist in solitary. Not really. There are no days, no nights, no weeks. Just an endless present moment that stretches in all directions forever. You lose the edges of yourself. Your thoughts repeat until they stop sounding like thoughts and just become noise. Static. A frequency you can't tune out. I thought about Bone constantly, wondered if he was in solitary too, or if he was back in the block, laughing about what happened. I thought about Thomas and Ricky, who wouldn't speak up for me. I understood why. In here, loyalty to yourself comes first. Always. I thought about the coffee. How stupid it was that half a bag of instant coffee led to this. How prison takes small things and makes them matter because there's nothing else to hold on to. I thought about the drive to Pittsburgh, the bag in the trunk, the $5,000, the moment I could have said no. I thought about everything, and then I thought about nothing, and then I couldn't tell the difference anymore. On what I think was the 10th day, I had a breakdown. Not violent, not dramatic, just quiet. I was sitting on the floor, back against the wall, staring at the door, and I started crying, not sobbing, just tears running down my face, and I couldn't stop them. I thought about my mother, how she used to make pancakes every Sunday morning when I was a kid, how she'd hum while she cooked, how I'd taken all of that for granted until it was gone. I thought about Sarah, how she'd tried to help me, how I'd pushed her away, how she'd been right about everything. I thought about the person I was before the arrest, before the drive, before everything fell apart, and I realized I couldn't remember him clearly anymore. His face was blurry, his thoughts were distant, like someone I'd met once a long time ago. I wondered if that person still existed somewhere, or if he'd died the moment I said yes to Marcus, or if he'd never existed at all and I'd always been this person, weak, desperate, willing to hurt people to save himself. The tears stopped eventually. I sat there in the silence, feeling nothing. That scared me more than anything. They let me out on the 15th day. A guard opened the slot in the door and told me to step back. The door opened. Fluorescent light from the hallway flooded in, so bright it hurt. "Let's go," the guard said. I stood up. My legs were shaky. I walked out of the cell and the guard led me back through the corridors to the main block. Everything looked too bright, too loud, too real. They'd moved me to a different cell, different cellmates, 3 new faces who barely looked at me when I walked in. I took the top bunk they assigned me, put my few belongings in the bin underneath, sat down. No one spoke to me. No one asked where I'd been. They knew. Everyone knew. That night in the cafeteria, I saw Bone across the room. He was sitting with his friends, eating, laughing. He looked at me once, just once, and smiled. He didn't need to do anything else. He'd already won. Everyone knew it. I ate quickly, went back to my cell, lay on my bunk. That was 15 days ago. I'm writing this now. Day 58, 7 years, 9 months, and 7 days left. I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe because I need to say it before I forget how. Prison doesn't rehabilitate you. It doesn't make you better. It just takes pieces of you, slowly, quietly, until there's nothing left but the worst parts. I came in here guilty, ashamed, ready to accept my punishment. I thought suffering would balance the scales somehow. But suffering doesn't balance anything. And the worst part isn't the violence or the fear or even the time. The worst part is realizing you're disappearing, that every day in here erases a little more of who you were. Your memories fade, your emotions flatten. The things that used to make you human, empathy, hope, connection, they become liabilities, weaknesses, things that get you hurt, so you let them go, piece by piece, until you're just a thing that survives, that eats and sleeps and walks in circles and counts days. Not a person anymore, just a number. Just a body taking up space. I have 7 years, 9 months, and 7 days left. And what terrifies me, what keeps me awake at night, staring at the concrete ceiling, isn't that I might not survive, it's that I will. That I'll walk out of here in 8 years, and there'll be nothing left of E. Nothing left of the person who made pancakes with his mother, or loved Sarah, or cared about anything beyond the next meal, the next day, the next threat. I'll just be what prison made me, empty, numb, institutionalized, a ghost wearing my face, and I don't know how to stop it from happening.